Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we watch trilogies and sagas and decide which film is like my own personal brand of heroin. I'm your host Griner, and joining me today...
I'm Luke Morgan, and I guess the wolf is out of the bag. I like watching you sleep. It's fascinating to me.
And I'm Switzerland, okay?
Alright, probably our most requested podcast by friends and family. We're doing the Twilight series. Boys, Conan, kick us off. You've never seen these movies before. This was your first watching of the saga. How did you feel?
You know how there's these timeless classics in Hollywood history that you know you should watch, but you never have? Like your Gone with the Winds, your Citizen Kanes, your Titanics. And then you finally see them and you think, I was wrong, I should have watched them all along. I should have listened and seen them earlier. This is not one of those sagas. These are films that I will regret watching for the rest of my life.
Not mincing any words there, not pulling any punches. Luke, I think you and I have a little bit of history with these films. How did you find this rewatch?
Yes. So that's the thing. I'd seen all these films before. A few years ago, I think now this would maybe be my third rewatch of all of them. Yeah, I know. Like, it was kind of a thing where I watched them begrudgingly when I was a teenager and they were coming out, because I'd watched the first one and then I was like, I need to watch them all now. So I watched them all. And then when I started dating my wife, we watched them together and laughed about them. And then all these years later, here we are again, watching them through again. These films are bad, but that there definitely should not be 5 movies. Like, there really is not 5 movies worth of material in these films.
5 2-hour movies as well.
5 movies, really should not be. But I find myself every time I get to the end of them, despite how bad I thought it has been for the whole time watching it, I get to the end, I'm like, oh, that was fun. Like, this borders on that The Room territory for me, where it's watching it with... I don't know if I could watch it on my own and just be like sitting there, but watching it with my wife and just like laughing and just, especially for this one, I wrote more notes for each film than I have for any film we've done in this series so far. Because I was just, every line, I just felt like I had to write down to be like, oh my God, like that. It was just like constantly writing notes while watching this film. And I had fun with it. I'm obviously donning the Cullen hair tonight, so I know what team I'm on.
I applaud your dedication. Yeah, I saw all these movies in the cinema. I even read the books because, and I hate this about myself, but I'm one of those assholes who wants to read the books before the movies comes out so he knows what's going to happen. So he can be one of those guys that well, actually in the books. And I hate that about myself. I don't want to be that guy, but I know I'm that guy.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%, Luke. I could never watch these on my own. I don't think they're good movies. My wife really enjoys them to an extent. They've definitely moved into that territory of making fun of them as we watch them. A lot like High School Musical for us, movies that end up being on in our house quite often, despite us not thinking they're, great cinema or anything like that. Yeah, and I had a lot of this is the first time I'd actually sat down and watched them in a long time. It's interesting to see how some things have aged, but anyway, we'll get there.
Definitely.
Before we get into the movies, Luke, Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Team Edward all day long.
Conan?
Team Charlie. It's Team Charlie.
Charlie is hard done by. Look, it's got to be Team Edward. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Are there any Team Jacobites? Really?
There's a lot of Team Jacob fans, man. I felt like for a while I was Team Jacob as well. I don't know if it was just the abs.
Is that why?
I just when you look at it logically, like when you look at it from obviously Edward does too, and they're glittery.
They're painted on in the second movie,
but I think once you get that whole thing in your head that this is like a 127-year-old madlessly in love with a 17-year-old, as if Bella's this like super deep, awesome person that he just falls in love with. when she doesn't show that much personality. I don't know why those people love her so
we'll
much.
get into that whole
you know. But like the fact that he's been on this earth for 120 years old. You would think his maturity level compared to her should be way different.
Yeah.
And he should be knowledgeable as hell. He's seen some shit. And then you have Jacob, who's a teenager with her, and he's sort of like, he's the friend zone guy, which who can't relate to the friend zone guy, as opposed to the guy that the woman loves straight away. I related more to Jacob, and that could have been the abs again, who knows? But
Yep.
I think with my maturity and with Robert Pattinson being Batman and just the last few years, I've become a bit of a Robert Pattinson fan, so I'm Team Edward.
Yeah, it's definitely like a Team Robert Pattinson more than a Team Edward thing. Obviously, the movie points it out. Jacob makes way more logical sense for a human to be in love with. Yep. Taylor, we'll get into it, but Taylor Lautner is just a wet blanket this whole trilogy.
This is what I meant. As a character, he is so whiny and so like, please just date me, please, no, please.
It's bad.
And even when she's with her boyfriend, he's like, no, don't date him, date me.
It would be as easy as breathing with me. Oh, man.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into it,
wait, Conan. What's Conan?
He's Team Charlie.
Team Charlie. I'm not taking. That's all I can take. It's either Robert Pattinson which is a meta team, but in the context of the film, it's only Team Charlie. She should have just stayed at home with her dad.
Yeah.
Never dated anyone. Just been one of those weird kids who stays there until he dies, and she takes over the family business, being police chief to Forks.
There we go. Perfect.
Now, it surprised me watching this how many big actors came out of these films. Like, they weren't big before this, and they're kind of big now. So we've got Robert Pattinson. Obviously, he was in Harry Potter. People really liked him in that. He played a great character, Cedric Diggory. That's his name, isn't it?
Yep.
And then he was in Twilight, and then did nothing for a while. But now he's been in The Batman, Tenet, Lighthouse. I think we're all huge fans of R. Pats these days.
Yes. Yeah.
It definitely feels like he's managed to break out of that, teenage heartthrob mold.
Yep,
easily. Yep.
And then he's a great actor. He's just
I've definitely really enjoyed him in the last few years. Like, he seemed to drop off the face of the earth there for a while. He was definitely doing stuff. Like, his IMDb profile is very long, but definitely not movies that I ever saw either. Kristen Stewart, she was in Panic Room. I like that movie. It's probably Finch's weakest movie, but I still enjoy that movie. And then in Twilight, and then not much for a while. And then she was nominated for an Academy Award in Spencer. Like, say what you will, she's got some chops there. She's definitely moved on a bit.
Yeah, both similar stories. They made all these art house films for about 10 years. Like, there was one film she made, I think it was called The Clouds of Sils Mauritius. It was either that or one of the other sort of, I think there was a foreign film. And some critics were saying this is some of the best acting we've ever seen. Like, they were singing her praises to no small end. Like, she wasn't off, she wasn't making huge money because they don't need money. Her and Arpats both, I think, just had pretty much their bank set for the rest of their lives after Twilight.
You'd hope so.
Yeah.
So I think they were able to just go and make these critical darlings that no one saw, but, film snobs were like, that's art, that's what we want from these people.
Yeah.
And so really clever moves on both their behalf.
And it's interesting to see them, they're not great in these movies, especially Kristen Stewart. Robert Pattinson, I think he's fine, but Kristen Stewart is bad in these movies. But obviously, there was something there. I also wrote down Anna Kendrick. She wasn't in much before Twilight, but I'll watch her in anything she's in. She was nominated for an Academy Award in Up in the Air, and then like his leading films like Pitch Perfect.
That's
she's in Scott Pilgrim.
Personalities though. Anna Kendrick's there. She's way more funnier than Bella.
Films. She's way more interesting than Bella.
Oh man.
Rami Malek appears in the final film.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done some small roles before this, but not much. And then he's like Mr. Robot, won an Oscar for Bohemian Rhapsody, played a villain in a Bond film.
Lee Pace is in it as well.
Yeah, Lee Pace pops up.
Lee Pace, Dakota Fanning, Bryce Dallas Howard, Gil Birmingham. There's lots of actors that...
Our boy Gil Birmingham.
And Bunk.
Yeah.
Conan.
How did you feel when that happened?
When I saw Wendell Pierce turn up, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Don't say it ain't so. Please tell me this is like I'm being racist and seeing you as someone else right now. But I wasn't. It was Wendell Pierce. And that's Oh god,
It was
Let's
such an
just name the one
unnecessary.
scene.
It's such an
Yeah.
unnecessary role.
the most redundant scene of any movie.
We'll get
Oh,
we'll get there, but I don't know. I just wanted to point out there's a lot of actors and actresses who either made a start here or hadn't done much before this and went on to big things. I don't know. It just surprised me.
Yeah.
no. When I saw Anna Kendrick, I was shocked, and it just kind of got more and more when I you start to realize that everybody was. That makes sense. These movies were huge, right?
They were.
You kind of want to be in the biggest franchise in the world. It's like Marvel now. Everyone wants to be in at least one Marvel film. Everyone wanted to be in at least one Twilight film.
Yep.
Dennis Franz, where do we put him in these movies?
Jacob Black.
I mean, I think the obvious role is Charlie. Like he's been a police chief already.
That's like
it'd be weird to think of him having a child the age of Bella, but
but that would
You go, Conan.
it would be such a great meta casting though, right? It's one of those things where this is the guy from NYPD Blue. He's a cop, and now he's retired to small town Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Like that'd be a really funny joke that nobody who saw these movies would get.
No, not at
who's
all.
that joke for exactly?
But that's what I would love it. Me personally, I think it'd
For
be
the next
great.
20, 30 years, he'll be known as he's Bella's dad. That's what he'll be. His legacy would have been.
Oh, poor man.
I had him in as Ed, Charlie's friend in the first one. That's like, I played Santa one year, and then gets ripped apart by the
that's right.
shirtless vampires.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
The guy who's in there for about 3 seconds.
Good cameo role. Yeah, that suits. That suits.
These movies, monetary wise, have pretty amazing stats. So, Twilight made $407 million worldwide. New Moon $709 million. Eclipse $698 million. Breaking Dawn $712 million. Breaking Dawn Part 2 $829 million. So that's a total of $3.3 billion on a budget of $401 million. I mean, if you're a studio, that's a pretty good return on investment, right?
It's a damn good return. Man, everybody was seeing these movies.
They were the biggest thing in the world at the time.
High school was just, everyone I know at high school, all the girls were just obsessed with these teachers.
Yeah, I mean, there's infamously a teacher in our town whose whole style basically changed based on these movies.
They became
so true.
They started coming to school in dark clothes with dark hair. It was fascinating to watch.
I was convinced they'd joined the Cullens. They'd been bitten.
I think they wanted to.
Yep.
Critically, not so good. Twilight 56 on Metacritic, New Moon 44, Eclipse 58, Breaking Dawn Part 1 45, and Breaking Dawn Part 2 52. Not exactly up there in the ratings.
Man, they are higher than the Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes
has New Moon at 28% and Breaking Dawn Part 1 at 25%.
Yeah.
Pretty appropriate, yeah. I mean, I could swing pretty much any of them that low personally, but those two are the standout for the weakest films.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask before we really start to dissect them. Do you guys think these movies could exist in any other? Like, could they exist nowadays if they made these? Because these films exist in any other time besides the late 20s, the 2000s. Because I feel like their popularity, right, is based on A, partially the time they came out, and B, like you're saying, because you guys saw them, you guys not enjoyed them, but you watched them all because you're in high school. They were seen by high schools at that time.
Yep.
If they came out now, do you think high schoolers would be seeing them? Do you think with the general like change in the industry they would exist? Or if a high school kid saw these movies today with no knowledge of Twilight, do you think they would react to them in any way similar? Or do you think they'd come away and be like, that was awful, that was racist, that was problematic, that was creepy? Or do you think this is a timeless for all teenagers ever?
No, I don't think this film is as successful, especially after like the takeoff of the MCU. Like, you've got like this film was very much. I don't think any teenagers I knew liked it because of the writing. It was obviously they had crushes on Jacob or Edward, and now they've got Thor. They've got like Chris. I don't know. It's where we are in like society and all of this sort of stuff. 120-year-old dude dating a 17-year-old and like
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it, but there's so many things about the love story of these two characters that would be cancelled straight away today, I feel like. And rightly so, I think. Rightly so. Like, there's some unhealthy relationships going on here. It's
very much
It's
so.
very strange to look at this as literature written by a woman, like from a feminist perspective. I don't know. It bothers me a little bit, but also, I don't know. What do I get to say about that?
Like, I think one Marvel film these days that has the superhero person like watching someone sleep that he has a crush on. Done. Like that character's cancelled.
Ant-Man sneaks into his ex-wife's house and watches her sleep. It's like,
watches
no,
her sleep.
That's getting cut from the film straight away. It's done.
Ant-Man's gone. Full road. It's cancelled.
I find it fascinating that these movies are so influential. Like I said, they changed how people reacted. They really did. Like, they gave birth to 50 Shades of Grey, which had recent movies come out. Like, these films are still like, people know so much about them and the memes and stuff from it. But I'm like, they really were one of those interesting relics of the past that I think for me coming at it, having never seen these, only knowing the reception around it, watching them with fresh eye, I'm like, these are woeful. And I do think that I wonder if I would have had the same reaction if I'd watched them in high school with an ulterior motive, either with a partner or trying to hook up with chicks or something like that. But coming at it now with nothing but just my adult,
just having to watch it for this podcast,
having to watch it as a grown man without any reason to, I can't see. I see only issues, and I wonder if it's just because of the time, or if seeing them when you're an impressionable teenager is very different, or what. But Jesus.
I think, I don't know, this is probably a broad generalization, but the people who were going to see these movies at that time today are not that interested in cinema, right? Like, cinema is not what it was, even 15 years ago. Like
TikTok, YouTube, that's what the people are watching these days. I might be out of touch and I'm the old man yelling at clouds. Like, I don't know what teenagers are watching, but I don't know if that many teenagers are like that involved with movies and all this fandom sort
and
of
it's
stuff.
only those big tentpole movies like, Marvel movies that gets them out. I feel like I could be completely wrong, but I feel like these movies work before they came out. Like, if they were released, in the 90s, they probably work then too. There's weird ass vampire love story movies in the 90s as well. Like, they've existed for a while. This genre is not that new.
It came out the perfect time. I think this is like the time it did come out though was the perfect time for it to come out and succeed.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it kicked off like a bit of a vampire renaissance, like, Vampire Diaries. There's a whole bunch of vampire properties that came out at this time. True Blood, and it's all attributed to Twilight in a lot of ways.
Yep.
All right, let's look at it. When Bella Swan moves to a small town in the Pacific Northwest, she falls in love with Edward Cullen, a mysterious classmate who reveals himself to be a 108-year-old vampire.
108, sorry.
Yeah, stop adding years to this man.
Get it right, Luke. It's not creepy now.
It's not creepy anymore, no.
Oh, boy.
That was the whole plot, was it?
I mean,
I
could go with a more detailed one, but you don't need any more than that, do you?
Pretty much is. Yeah. So, who wants to kick us off? Conan, this was your live thought, like your first time seeing it. What was this first film? What did it strike you?
All right, so the first thing I wrote down watching this, the main point I wrote down from this is, holy crap, these movies are not good for teenage girls to be watching. This movie is not a good standard. It's really unhealthy. Bella as a character is so freaking just whiny and mopey and empty and hollow, and just the weird sycophantic obsession with Edward is so strange, and just and it only gets worse. But
like, her whole character is loving Edward, right? Like, that's
Literally.
pretty much all there is to her. It's pretty sad. It's pretty sad.
Like, I was truly shocked coming at it. Like, I was expecting a love story. Okay, there's going to be a love story. There's going to be banter. There's going to be little, cute things. There's going to be a meet cute. There's going to be any number of things you can expect to connect, to have some sort of like empathy with these characters and go, yes, I resonate with you because you guys have jokes. I have jokes with my real life people. But there's nothing. There is the weird thing where he like vomits in the classroom and he's like, I can't bet. And then he comes back a week later, he's like, hello, I'm Edward Cullen. You might remember me from when I was sitting next to you. I wasn't well though.
You've got to see. You've got to look at the color of his eyes. The color of his eyes were very dark. Then he hadn't fed in a while. The smell of Bella was just too much for him.
The fan blew her smell onto him. It was so much.
Is that why he loves her? Because she's got a distinct smell? Because that's really what kickstarts it.
There's some whole thing about her being particularly tasty to him.
She is like his own personal brand of heroin. You know how they have brands of heroin, like Calvin Klein and all this sort of stuff. She is his personal brand of heroin. That's the thing. Like, he goes to the class to try and swap class, like change into a different subject, and he's just like, "Fine, I'll just have to endure it," and like pushes past her. It's like so emo. It's so like, oh man.
To your point, I will say, I don't mind some of the scenes where she's with the other classmates. Like, I feel like that is, typical coming of age story about teenage kids. He's like trying to put a bug on her and annoying her with it, and they're going swimming at La Push and all this stuff. Like,
yeah, they're fun.
I think that's fun. And then the rest of her classmates are fun. She's really boring. She's only interested in one thing, and it's crap.
That's also what really irked me, right? Is that I was hoping there'd be some of that drama and that they kind of hint at it. But the whole time, like, there's a line, I wrote it down. A guy says, when she pulls up in a truck, he says, "Nice ride." And she says, "Good one," which is the worst response to any guy ever. But, that comes out as like, okay, she's going to be an outcast, right? She's a new girl in Forks. She's kind of weird and she's pasty, but she shouldn't be. She's from California or something.
From Arizona.
Isn't everyone from Arizona meant to be tan?
Great line from Anna Kendrick, right?
Yeah, nailed it. So she arrives in the truck. So there's that build up of she is going to be an outcast. She's going to be the new kid at the small town. She's going to be weird. But for some reason, every popular kid likes her. Anna Kendrick comes up and is like, "Hey, haha, that guy talked to you. Let's be friends." All the guys trying to bang her. The geeky girl who's also in the cool group's like, "You're awesome," for no apparent reason. And straight away, she is like in with the cool group. It makes no sense.
Well, you don't even know if that's the cool group, right? That could be the nerdiest kids in the whole school, but you literally learn nothing about the rest of the school, nothing about the dynamics of what are going on. Like, you have that one small group of people, and you have the Cullens, and that's all you find out about the school. And it really does take away from any, like, coming of age, this is the school dynamics, this is what's happening at the school. Like, all that's just removed, and all we're left with is Bella pining for Edward, and it's sad.
Look, I'll make my one point quickly because I don't want to harp on about this, but there's an infinite amount of things that I could rewrite about this and be like, this is what it should have done to be a decent film. So I can't point all of them out. But that was a gaping hole where I'm like, it would have been more interesting if she was an outcast and Ed was an outcast, and that's why they fall in love, right? She's the lonely girl. He's like the weird, cool loner, and that's why they connect. And she's like, "Oh, cool, this guy's taking interest. I've got no one." That would have made so much more sense. It made it so much more easy to relate. But that really took me out of it when she's still got friends and she's connecting fine, and for some reason she's so drawn in. But that's it. I won't point out all the other things that I had.
I mean, she's also got like the Wolf Tribe all like pining for her as well. That's the thing. Like, it's weird as well. Like the whole Cullen family are like idolized by everyone in the school, or this one group. Like Grant said, we only do see this one group, and they're just like, "Oh my god, it's the Cullens!" And we get like a 5-minute scene of the Cullens walking in one by one, like doing like slow-mo shots for the camera and like smiling. It's like, man, look how cool these guys are.
It's like getting the gang together montage that you get in other films. Like, that's what we're getting there.
Yeah,
it's stupid, and like even the whole conceit of like, oh, they're all foster kids, but they're hooking up, is super weird and creepy.
That is weird.
Like, I don't know. They comment on it, but like, that is weird. Your foster license would be revoked. I don't know. I'm sure there'd be something wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super weird. Yeah. I will say, one of my first notes about this, I do like the aesthetic of this first film. I don't know if it's like the whole video game Life is Strange thing for me. Like, I like this small town dynamic. I like the blue filter. It feels cold. I don't know. There's something comforting about this film and its aesthetic and the town for me personally. And I don't know if that's just me.
But they never flesh it out either. Like, that's my other problem with it. Like, it's just underused. You see like 3 locations. You never get, the town isn't a character in this movie. It's just an excuse to have a small amount of people in it.
And it's always overcast, which apparently means that there's no sun. They don't
sparkle. That's right. That's why they live in Forks.
Ridiculous.
They're never in the sun. And then when the suns come out, the Cullens disappear because they go on hikes. They don't come to school. They go hiking. The school allows them to.
Yeah, the police are cool with that.
Yeah.
So, like, almost immediately, Edward like starts showing really huge red lights. In my opinion, like, he pushes her out of the way of the car, and she's like, "I saw you do it." And he's like, "No, I was right next to you the whole time." Like, straight up gaslighting her, straight up like trying to convince her what she remembers isn't real. He's like spying on her in her sleep. It's super weird and awkward. Like, I don't understand why that was so appealing to people.
It's like, it's so abusive behavior. Yeah, some of it stuff, like
textbook abusive. Yeah,
it's so funny. He really gives up quickly on like convincing her that she hit her head with the car accident. Like, she's like, no, you were across the yard, and he's just like, yeah, well, no one's gonna believe you anyway, and like gets all aggressive and like in her face. And then, like, when they're in the plant thing and like, you know, the compost area, and like she trips over one thing, he's like, can you at least watch where you walk? Like, he gets so aggressive, like, oh God, like, you stupid fool. Like,
if you'd grazed your knees right then, I don't know what I would have done.
I would have bitten your leg off. Like, it's so, it's so intense, man. It's
because he's dangerous. Because he's essentially wearing a leather jacket and he has a motorcycle. He's a bad boy.
He is,
and everybody wants a bad boy. I think you guys are you aren't selling
bad boy factor.
Yes, it washes over a whole lot of bad behavior.
How did you guys feel about like the really on the nose symbolism? Like, Edward sitting there in science class, and there's the owl wings behind him, just perfectly perched behind him. He catches the apple and, you know, hands it to her, this bright shiny red apple. Here, you take this forbidden fruit. It's just like, it's so on the nose. It's so not well done.
No, subtlety is not a part of this franchise at all.
Particularly not this movie. This movie is the worst for it, in my opinion.
I mean, I think the other ones kind of give up on trying to be like, you know, this one has like at least sort of a flair for things like that, where it's like, here is a symbol. The other ones I just think abandon it all. It's like, we don't need that. We have vampires now.
It's like the other ones. It's like, okay, the audience knows we're all vampires. There's no need to be subtle about it, like, at all. There's no hiding we're vampires in front of anybody now. It's just like, we're all vampires running around the town, but like, I don't know. There's a lot of weird scenes in this film, obviously. The whole thing about like when he comes and saves her from the group of guys in the parking lot. It's really weird how there's like 2 groups of predators like meet up in one spot. Like, they're not following her. She goes to walk there. These 2 guys see her and like change their direction and go, oh, look, up the alleyway there. They follow her. She walks that direction. And then another group come from the other side of the parking lot. They all have beers. They chuck each other. He's like, oh, look at this. Look what we found. The 2 of us group of predators. That's
they high five and like, cool, let's abuse this person.
It's
like,
it really I was gonna do a Predator 3 quote, Predators quote, but like, it's really weird. And then the way Edward scares them off by like just like
growling at them.
It really does feel like Stephenie Meyer is never like... I want to know if she was like a super sheltered teenager and woman, because it feels like this is someone who has been warned her entire life that men are all predators out there.
This is what will happen.
And she's like, okay, I've never been into a situation where anything like this... I've never been outside of my father or husband's, you know, authority, so I don't know. So I assume this is what happens when you walk down an alley. 2 groups of men will come at you and assault you. Like, it's a
radar goes off and just calls in all predators. They all just come in. They smell that Bella scent. The wind was blowing strong that night.
Yeah, it's absurd. And I don't know how anyone wrote that and was like, yes, that's what happens. Or Forks is just like a fucked up place. I don't know.
I mean,
that's not Forks. That's like the big town nearby. But it's a weird town. Like there's dress shopping, and it's clearly like in a suburban part of town. And then they go to a restaurant that's clearly a house. Like, do you guys ever know? It just feels like it's really cheaply shot or something. I don't know. There's some awkward stuff there in that town they go to.
The first one didn't have a big budget, did it?
No, it was like 37 mil, which is, not nothing, obviously, but
yeah,
compared to the final films, they were 4 times that.
Yeah.
And they put that budget to use in the last ones.
Well, I mean, the budget really shows in the effects. Like, every time someone is running around, it's bad. Like, they just use this blur. It looks strange.
The editing in these movies, like the running blur and the weird frantic edits, are probably what I hate the most.
The one thing I think works okay, and they use it sparingly, but when the 3 enemy vampires are walking along, they've got them walking on like I don't know, it's like they're walking at a different pace to how they're moving. It feels like they're gliding through. Like, I think that's a nice cheap effect that works pretty well. It's pretty subtle, but yeah, anytime they're doing something superhuman, it's very strange.
Like baseball?
Baseball. How did you guys feel about baseball? I think that's kind of a fun scene. It's not good, but it's kind of fun. You got Alice pitching and the boys running up and diving into each other.
I really want Conan's opinion on the baseball game. Like, as soon as I watched it, I was like, I can't wait for Conan to watch the baseball game.
The soundtrack too.
I was like, I don't know, Supermassive Black Hole is not a good needle drop man.
I reckon. The soundtrack on the first few movies, I think, is very good. If you listen to the actual soundtrack,
I listened to like 2. I knew 2 or 3 songs from there, and it's funny. One of the songs came on, and I was like to my wife, "Hey, it's this song." She's like, "I know, I had the soundtracks." It's like, oh no,
they were good. They are banger soundtracks. I will defend those soundtracks. I don't care what you say. Supermassive Black Hole is a good song.
Oh no, the song's fine. It's just I don't think it's right for that scene.
Oh, I'm not saying the soundtrack is well used. I'm just saying it's got good songs on it.
I think that scene is really strange. It's a very bizarre, like 8-minute sort of side note in a film that's doesn't really have any reason to show this. Like, why is baseball a huge narrative component? And they're like, it's a thing we do as a family. It's a big event of ours.
It's American pastime.
True. I didn't think of the patriotism.
They've been in that country for 100 years, 200 years, man.
Might as well take. But then when the other group turns up and they're like, "Hey, baseball, can we have a round?"
It's Vampire's favorite sport, man. They're like, baseball, yeah.
I don't think Stephanie Meyer's ever played baseball. She's like, surely anyone would just turn up and be like, "Can I play the game with you?"
But it's their only outlet to express their strength because of the lightning. So they only play baseball when it's thunder.
They time it with the lightning.
Oh man, it's great. The whole scene
you guys enjoyed that scene? That's what
I have fond memories of that scene. Is it a good scene? No.
Makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
Makes me laugh every time. Just the whole thing of her figuring out he's a vampire, like by Googling so much. Like, that seems to be a thing in these films, is Google is their solution for a lot of stuff. Even stuff that you'd think 300-year-old vampires should know about themselves. Like, they go onto Google to figure out about their origin. But she just does a bunch of Googling, figures it out. Like you're talking about that running effect. Like, that whole scene where he's like quickly running to different parts in the trees, and he's like, as if you could outrun me. And just, it's like, it looks so bad. It looks really weird. And I don't get, obviously I get into it more with the later films, but just like that, oh yeah, they're vampires. They have every power. Like, vampires are known for running fast. Vampires are known for flying, climbing up trees like Spider-Man, like doing this. And then they give every vampire like their own special superpower. How do
you guys feel about the mythology they set up around vampires in this? Because there's obviously that, like, every vampire has their own power, or most do. They only sparkle in the sun. It doesn't kill them completely. They can only be killed by fire. And
having their heads ripped off.
Yeah,
that's bizarre. Cool. Their body,
they break. They like break like glass when they get their head
stone. See, if they sit still for too long, they petrify. Remember in the last film? I remember liking that at the time. Like, it sets up this not interesting, but this new mythology for these vampires. I don't know. I think it was kind of fun. not saying it's good now, but
It's not like I'm like some vampire aficionado that I hate that. It's not like the comics in Marvel. It's not like it's like, oh my god, they're ruining vampires. Vampires don't do this. I don't care, but it's weird that they're just like they excuse everything with, oh yeah, it's a vampire power. Like,
the vampire powers are a huge problem for her storytelling too in this. But
Yeah.
like, I'm not mad that they don't have to be like invited into a room or any of those old
I
tropes.
am mad about that.
that would be so funny. Just an interesting twist on everything, but yeah.
Would that make more sense though? Be like Edward's like, that's why, yeah. Like that'd just be interesting. He's like, you have to invite me, and she's like, oh, why? And he's like, because I'm a vampire, yo. She's like, oh yeah, cool. That would just make it much. That would make it less creepy as well, because you can just turn up and watch her and
Watch
appear
her in
in
the
her
middle of
room.
the
He'd
night.
be outside the window every time he's watching her. Like,
that's-
damn it, I
yeah.
wish you would invite me in her sleep. I could come in and watch.
I think there's a fine line between like changing the rules and stuff, and adding in features. And at a certain point, up to that line, it's interesting. It's like a cool, clever play on it. Past that line, it ceases to be what you're describing. And I think she does so much with the vampires that they're not vampires. The werewolves aren't werewolves.
No,
By
not at all.
definition, they're wolves. But they're like, yeah, we're werewolves. Like, no, they're not though. And the vampires aren't vampires. All the rules of the only thing they correspond with is that they drink blood to survive. But even then, vampires are in most mythologies human blood. There's very few
Yeah.
that aren't human blood. And the whole
These are
sparkling and
vegan.
light. And the whole sparkling and light thing is, it's like, well, the whole point is vampires are supposed to die in the light, not just they can't go out in daylight. And so
It's
she
a
really
huge
just changed.
cop out there, yeah.
Yeah, and so they're not vampire. It really is like they're not vampires. They're just immortals that drink blood.
It's just bloodsuckers.
The fact that there's so many powers, and each time she adds on more, I'm like, you're diluting the vampire pool. That this could be any number of like creatures, monsters, demons, whatever, and it would still work because you're like they've got a bit of everything. Like things are defined by what they aren't, and so by being like a vampire is just anything that's supernatural. I'm like, well, that's not true. But still cool storytelling.
Obviously we don't want to spend too much time on just the first one because there's still 4 more movies to get through.
That's true.
But so like you have the 3 baddies, the 3 bad vampires, that obviously show up with their like shirtless scenes and they're killing everyone. But like, why does the dude with the dreadlocks like have a change of heart after the baseball game? And he's like been running around chilling with James and Victoria this like whole time, and then like James has a real particular interest with Bella. He's like, oh, I want Bella. And that afternoon, he's like, he abandons him. And he's like, no, I've never seen James like this. This is crazy. You guys, I'm warning you about like he's gone too far now. When James hasn't done anything. He just wants to kill Bella. It's like, I don't know, this guy's just like Laurent. That's his name. Just pieces out straight away. I don't know.
I mean, so many things in these books, like and the movies, is just like a convenient way to give them a heads up, and then they retcon Laurent to being like, oh, he's been in a relationship with our cousin.
Yeah,
in the last movie, like they play around with all the characters as much as they need to fill parts of the story. It's you're right though. Like it's a huge change of heart right then and there. They've been terrorizing the community, killing people, and now it's like, oh, I better warn them.
Yeah, there are a lot of scenes in this. I didn't make a list of them, but there's a lot of scenes of like convenient, just a character appears to talk, and Jacob does it heaps in all the movies. Where they'll say something, and some characters just turns up. He's like, "What was that?" It's like, "Why are you here? Why have you turned up at this moment to actually come and talk to anyone?" He's like, "No, I'm just here to listen to you." Apparently, and there's a lot of just very convenient moments in all of them.
The whole the main bad guy that wants to kill Bella as well. Like he finally gets her. He's like obsessed. She smells, and we've seen vampires. They smell human blood or whatever, and they want them and want to kill them. He finally has Bella there, and he's just like, I'm gonna film this. Like it's like I don't. It's so weird. Like I'm gonna prolong this for a bit, even though you're bleeding. Like I can control myself. I'm cool. I'm just gonna film this occasion, tease Edward a bit. Like it just I don't know. It's like who is this dude?
He's doing it to get back at Edward, not to have a meal. But you're right. It's dumb. Like it's real stupid.
Yeah, it's monologuing villain, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's a trope. You can't really blame Twilight for that. It's been done to death. All right, we better move on because we've got so many more to get through. New Moon. Edward leaves Bella after an attack that nearly claimed her life, and in her desperation, she falls into yet another difficult relationship. This time with her close friend Jacob Black.
There's one scene I need to bring up from the last one. I'm sorry. Like the whole thing about the abusive, like boyfriend thing. What the hell? The whole story when she's in the hospital and it's like, you broke up with Edward. She like leaves aggressively, like, no, Edward's broke up with me. I need to leave town. Her boyfriend and his dad came to a different town to convince her to go back to their town. And she tripped and fell down 2 flights of stairs and through a window. And the parents are just like, you're so clumsy. Like, it's not a trigger that her boyfriend that she's known for a month and his dad traveled to a different town to convince her to come back. And then she fell down 2 flights of stairs. And that's why she's cut up and bruised and beaten. It's like, what the hell? Wouldn't you be worried about your daughter?
I mean, I'll maintain that Charlie's the only normal character and all. Like, he's the only one who's just like constantly worried about her. I don't feel like he ever really believes the Cullens' excuses.
No.
I don't know. He's the character I relate with, I guess, the most. But
yeah,
you're right. It's like the worst explanation ever. How do those people ever believe that? Her mum's a total airhead who's totally not involved anyway. So
yeah.
I guess that makes sense there. But
all right, New Moon. This film has a lot of problems. Like,
oh really? Do tell.
Bella as a character in this one is really not a positive message to send to people. Like, this whole film is basically her being suicidal because her boyfriend's broke up with her.
You don't like the seasons passing, but she does nothing but stares out a window.
Christmas, Easter, this, that. It's like, oh, hasn't she graduated yet? Like, we just watched a bunch of seasons pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird.
See, her narration in these movies is so grating. Where why does it exist? Why does she narrate these movies?
It seems to just come and go too. Sometimes she starts narrating the scene, and
it always introduces the film with some weird like quote, or like she's reading poetry,
Shakespeare or poetry. Yeah.
And then very randomly it'll appear in other moments of the film. With no rhyme or reason.
It's just because they don't have a better way. Yeah, I think so from memory, but they just don't have a better way to tell the story. That's their problem.
But I don't. There's never any information given that's like, good, you've explained. It's usually just like mood. Like in that scene, she's like, well, Jacob, she's writing to Alice or something. She's like, Alice.
Yeah, it's reading her email.
Yeah, she's like, where is Edward? I don't know where you guys are. It's like, yeah, we know. We've just watched you stare out the window for 6 months.
Like, to summarize, I'm really sad, in case you didn't understand that from the imagery we showed you a moment ago.
I wrote you, but you still ain't calling.
That annoyed me too, because she's getting bounce back emails. So bounce back emails means the person on the other side is not receiving this. Like, this email is going nowhere. Stop. They're not getting them. You need a better email address for her. Oh, so annoying. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. The whole thing's unhealthy. This movie really rides on Bella and Jacob, and they both don't have the chops to hold this movie up. Like,
no.
Oh, Taylor Lautner throughout all of these movies, he is so bad. Like,
he's woeful.
He's great with a shirt off. Sure, I'll give him that. But he's a bad actor. Like, his line delivery is incredibly awkward at all times. Like, even when he should be like there's scenes later on where him and Edward are, against each other, and he should be clever and witty, and he's just not. Like, he's just so dull and whiny.
And just
yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I'll say it now. I feel like this film's the worst for me personally. Yes. I feel like this film is pointless. It's literally just a thing about Bella being sad for 2 hours and Edward considering suicide in the most dramatic way possible, of like taking his clothes off in public and glittering in front of everyone, to then get his head ripped off by the Volturi, who are introduced in this one, obviously.
Yeah, they act like that's the only way they can. Like, so many vampires die in this series, but the only way to kill a vampire is to anger the Volturi. You can't go pick a fight with Victoria or anyone like that. You have to go all the way to, Volturi land. And even the whole conceit of like, oh, I'm seeing him when I'm in danger. It's so bad. It's so stupid.
What is with that? And he's talking to her, and it's like he is actually talking to her though. Yeah, it's like real time.
So that's another vampire power. Anytime she's in danger, he teleports like a vision of himself, like Luke Skywalker, to just be like, "Don't do this." But he teleports himself in the middle of the road and causes her to crash as well. Like he's just like, "Stop doing that."
Pretty shitty boyfriend, Edward.
Stop showing up. She'll stop doing it.
It's pretty clearly just a figment of her imagination, but yeah, it's so.
Yeah, okay. I genuinely didn't know.
I didn't think so.
No, it can't be him because he would then know that she didn't really die in the ocean. Like he would know more about what's going on than he does.
That's right. The whole absurd thing that like he thinks she died in this day and age then, and can travel away, plan this whole suicide thing and all this dramatic thing that would take a few days. And no one can like call him or get in contact with him. He breaks his phone. So it's just like, surely he knows. Like, there's an easy way to just communicate that she's still alive. But
isn't that a plot hole in Romeo and Juliet though? Like, couldn't they have checked a little bit more to see if the other one was dead before they died? Yeah. Like, that's what it's playing off. It's bad.
I'm throwing shade at my boy Shakespeare. Okay?
They watch Romeo and Juliet in this one, don't they? Or they quote it in the class.
Oh, that's this one. Yeah.
Because of course it's subtle symbolism.
Edward gives his whole big speech, and he's like, "Ooh, impressive. He's a romantic." This movie. Yeah. Directed by a guy named Chris Weitz, who's the son of a guy named John Weitz, who was a fashion designer and super spy during World War II. I just wanted to point that out. How fascinating is this? This guy's in Nazi Germany, foiling Nazi plots, and then his son goes on to make American Pie and this film.
New Moon.
I think it's the perfect metaphor for the collapse of American civilization right there in that story.
Yep.
You could be right.
It's just, I don't like the whole. I really feel like this movie kind of glamorizes suicide in a weird way. Like I don't know, like the way they talk about it, like Edward talks about it at the opening, that like he says, "Oh, I had to consider it once, like suicide. I had to consider suicide once when I thought I would lose you, like a month ago." Like he's known this person for 3 weeks, and he's 109 years old. And she's had this much of an impact that the thought of her losing her to the vampire in the first one almost made him commit suicide. Then the thought of her dying without him checking or anything in the second one makes him go and attempt it as well. It's just, I don't know. It's really weird. Yeah,
and I'm still not sure why. I'm still not sure why they're in love. I'm still not sure what exactly they offer each other.
Smell.
Who can explain love, mate? It just is. Just is.
You just smelled it from across the room.
That's my excuse for my shitty writing. Like, just, you don't understand love. No one does.
And the nightmares she has.
Yes, I was going to say the night terrors.
So intense.
How long would you put up with that for in your house? Like, I feel like, go back to your mum's house.
One night, I'd be like, stuff this, man. Get over him. He wasn't that cool. Like, oh man, I don't know. It's just like.
This whole movie just exists to make Jacob a valid part of the love triangle.
Yeah.
Without this movie, you don't care about him at all. And I mean, you could argue even still you don't care about him at all because he's just a bad character. But yeah, that's the whole point of this movie. And yet the whole time, I never feel like Jacob and Bella have any chemistry. No. Like Edward and Bella, sure, there's a little, there's something there, maybe a little bit. Like it's better than Jacob and Bella. You got to admit it's better than Jacob and Bella.
It is just because they both want each other, whereas Jacob and Bella clearly doesn't want him.
Yeah.
Because Jacob wants her so hard.
She just can't admit it to herself.
And like, what teenage dude is throwing up in an action movie about gunfight? Like, it sounds like it's just a typical like gunfighting shit. And this dude's like almost throwing. He's like, "Oh my god, this movie's so violent. This action movie."
No, but he had a stomach bug because the other chick couldn't be there because she had a stomach bug, and he's got the same thing.
Oh.
It's very well explained. That's not a
Yeah.
plot
That's
hole.
also really strange in that scene when Jacob's like, "You're my problem, man."
No, he
And he's
says,
just like,
"Do you want
"What's
me to
up?"
put you in the hospital?" He
Oh,
says,
that's
"Do you want me
right.
to put you in the hospital?"
I'm like, Jacob, buddy, he didn't do anything.
Oh,
What's happening?
but that's because he was on heat. Remember, like he finds out it's because he's all like getting all woofy and all like temperamental and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Why do their shirts rip but not their pants? Like they keep their pants on, their shirts rip
I
off,
had
and then they go back to human. They have their pants on again.
I just think they can afford more pants. 'Cause I had the same thought. I'm like, they make such an effort to take their shirts off, but never. But then in the last one, the second last one, he does take his pants off in front of Charlie.
Yeah.
So they are aware that their pants tear. I think they just
They just
pants
have
look-
an unlimited supply of pants. hidden
He's-
around
cargo
them.
shorts.
I'm going to be
or
that guy.
jorts.
Actually, in the book, there's a very detailed scene where you learn that Jacob has a little pouch that he keeps his clothes in when he transforms. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking.
What the hell?
Yeah, I had the same thing. Like, what is
the
the
wolf
clothing?
pouch?
Like a little. The wolf wears a little pouch that has his clothes in it, so that he
Oh,
has something to
cute.
change back into. Yeah, I had the same note. Like, the clothing bill of the Quillette people must be like through the roof.
Cargo pants everywhere. That's why they just stopped wearing shirts for most of it. Like it's pouring down
Yeah.
rain. It's just like 8 dudes walking around shirtless. Like
Yeah.
Charlie loses his daughter. He's like a dude just comes out shirtless in short cargo pants carrying his daughter from the forest. He's like, this is cool. This is fine.
So, he's like, I don't understand this culture. so
It's
that's
pouring
fine,
down
guys.
rain. It's cold. He's like, yeah, why not?
This just must be what they do.
Oh man.
I saw some good quotes from this film. I think we mentioned before, you give me everything just by breathing. It's pretty big.
It's so unhealthy.
Yes, it is. Movie night with Bella, just the way they deliver it in there makes me cringe so hard. And you're like your own son, which is the worst possible analogy I've ever heard.
Yeah. Yep.
No, it's not a wolf thing. That's a Jacob thing. I think that's another movie.
He's just so hot.
Yeah. Oh, he
See,
is. hotter than-
that's a good line. That's a clever
Yeah.
line.
It is.
Like
They
they
put that
finally
in all the
nailed it.
trailers. I remember that.
Yeah, they nailed it 4 films later.
Man, that's the thing. Like the whole scene, I wrote down just like because I found it disturbing. The whole thing where like they're just going to feed the children and all the tourists to the Voltari after they leave, and like Bella just watches these kids walk in there for them, and then you just hear screaming and all that. It's just like, man, these vampire people are evil.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind. I
No, I'm
don't
just
mind the
saying,
Volturi. Like, that's. They at least feel interesting to me. Like, you know, you've got Jane and her brother, I can't remember what his name is, with their, like, he's in pain, and everyone writhes in pain, you know. I don't know. And her being immune to all their powers is kind of fun. And I love how Arrow's, like, obsessed with touching Alice so he can see the future.
Yep.
I don't
Like
know.
that's the thing. I don't mind the Volturi
Yeah.
as a whole. They're probably the most fascinating thing in these films. But that's the thing. Like I feel like there could be so many more interesting stories done even in this world than what this is. Like I don't know. Just yeah.
I hate this movie. I really do. I like one of my pet peeves in movies, and it's done all the time. But it's like when a miscommunication is the crux of the issue, and this whole movie rests on that
to an
miscommunication.
extreme.
At the end, he's gonna kill himself because of it, and it's just like, oh, it's so frustrating.
Even,
Can't
like,
stand it.
The whole thing of like it's so teenager, I guess, for her to just believe like the whole thing at the end where she's like, "You said you didn't want to be with me anymore." And he's like, "Yeah, because obviously we got this thing going on, so I was obviously saying this thing," and she just believed him like completely, you know. And she's just like, "Yeah, but I do want to be with you. It's obviously I'm saying this because I'm trying to protect you, but I'm not actually going to protect you. Let's do this." But is this the one? Yeah. So this is the one where she gets the tiny little paper cut at her birthday party, and then he like smashes her
into the wall.
and she like cuts her arteries in her arm and everything like that. Man, Edward's just doesn't think things
Wasn't the
through.
move. Wasn't the move at all.
No, poor Jasper going nuts over there.
All right, Conan's got nothing left to say about this movie. Eclipse.
Michael Sheen should not be in these movies.
Do you think he's good?
As an actor
Yeah.
in general, yeah.
What's he done that's exciting? I know he's in. He plays a werewolf in the Underworld series, but
Ooh, traitor.
Actually, I haven't seen that. He's just one of those like act who turns up in lots of.
he just turns
English
up in
things
lots of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a leading man, but he's good in every second film that he.
And I think he's good in
up.
these movies too. Like I think Arrow is kind of compelling to some extent. He's not like these aren't good movies. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying I think he's one of the more interesting characters in these movies.
I think he's having the most fun with it.
He's eccentric.
Like,
Yeah.
Especially in the last one, his laugh that he does.
He's
when
laugh.
he,
Like that weird.
like,
I know
man.
the one you're talking about.
yeah, he just didn't give a shit, and he's just going for it.
Be kooky with it. Why not? This movie's ridiculous.
He's getting paid.
Yes.
All right, Eclipse. As a string of mysterious killings grips Seattle, Bella, whose high school graduation is fast approaching, is forced to choose between her love for vampire Edward and her friendship with werewolf Jacob.
Why would you have to choose between that? Between like love with this person
Because
and just a friend of yours?
Jacob will not settle for friendship.
So
Yeah,
then, but he's
because
already.
he's not her friend. He wants to be more than that, and that's all that
But
matters.
then he's already one leg down. Like imagine that you're like I'm dating this person, but you're my friend who really wants to get with me, but I'm still dating this person. I'm not going to leave that person I'm dating to date you. That's why I'm dating this person, man.
But that person's really bad for her, and he's abusive.
He breaks her truck so she can't leave town in this movie. Like
I know
this
it's
is so unhealthy.
It's so alarm bells, man. It's like, no, you can't see Jacob. I'm gonna stop your car so you can't go see him. It's like abusive relation, and the whole just marry me, marry me, marry me, and she's like no, and he's like marry me. He's like yes, and then we can do it. Like marry me, please.
Oh boy, we'll get to
Oh, so okay, is this what you were talking about earlier that you said this is one of like the worst ones, or
no.
because
No,
I quite
this
think
is
of
my
all-
favorite of them. I think.
I like the newborn like army thing, like the opening with it's kind of like rainy horror opening. This dude gets his hand bitten, and just like all these killings happening, and they're like all these blood crazed newborns. That I think is kind of fascinating and kind of interesting for them to have this whole army of just like, and that they're super powerful because they've just become newborns. So like obviously, you know, like when you have special, they can bear hug people to death and they crush.
They've still got
like,
the human blood in their veins, yeah, and their muscles.
so they're super powered.
Why is that a thing? Why are
because
they powerful when you're...
human blood is what makes you more powerful. That's why the Cullens are kind of weak because they don't drink human blood. But
And that's why they're stronger once they've fed on animal blood. So one of them filled with human blood because they were just a human. Oh man, like super powerful.
mythology. How cool is the lore?
A fleshed out mythology. I'm surprised there isn't a rule where it's like, but not if you drink it on the 7th day of the week, and then you're actually too weak, and it's just that would be as good of a plot twist.
I don't know.
All these movies
Go for it. No, go for it.
All these movies dabble with horror so much to the point that I wish they'd commit, man. I get that they're not that film; they're teenage love stories. But I'm like, just commit to the horror thing. Commit to there being a serial killer. Commit to this weird, like, you can't go out with your boyfriend because someone's murdering people. And make it really creepy, make it weird. Because I agree, all that stuff kind of works when there's like, oh shit, people are dying in our, like, all around this area. And like the tension and the suspicion could be so riveting, but it never does anything.
Yeah, they choose to instead focus on Bella and Edward lying down in a meadow of flowers and talking about how much they love each other, but them not quite believing each other because they can't understand how he could love me so much. Like, it just hurts to watch, honestly. Like, it's painful. Taking Edward to Florida, who, like, the dude, what's his excuse for sitting inside all day in Florida? I don't understand how he gets away with it.
Like, man, her mum's like, man, that Edward dude's a hoot. Look at him sitting inside.
She's like, he really loves you. He watches you sleep. And I'm like, yeah, that's creepy AF, man.
Yeah, has no care for her daughter whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing as well. Like, she's so focused on wanting to become a vampire, and like she has nightmares about becoming old. Like when she's about to turn 18 and she's like has this whole like having nightmares of turning old and doesn't want to live like an extra year or two. Like she's saying goodbye to her mum in this because she's like, I'm gonna become a vampire and hide away.
Mm.
Like, oh, I love my mum, but yeah, okay, I'm ready to call it now on this relationship with my mum. I want to be a vampire with Edward now because I don't want to be 19 or 20. Like, live a few more years, like I don't know, and seeing my family. And obviously, they do work out a way to do that because of Jacob spoiling the thing. But I don't know. The whole thing with abusiveness again, like even Jacob says in this, like, oh, better you really be dead instead of one of them. Like he's just like, I'd rather you be dead, like than turn into a vampire. It's just like, I don't know, super weird.
There's a weird scene at the end where like it's Edward and Jacob sitting in a tent while Bella's like asleep, and they're arguing over like her and the decision she should make, and it's like,
Yeah.
like it's like, where is her, you know, independence in all of this? Where is her ability to choose? They don't care. The plot doesn't care. It's all about Edward and Jacob, and it's kind of gross.
She's actually awake listening to them.
Yeah, I
'cause
know.
she, like,
It's
slips
all-
it
it's
in.
so
just
weird.
like, she's like, oh,
Yeah,
listen to them fight over me.
She's so cool with it.
While Edward's Jacob's warming me up.
Well, there's that metric in cinema where they judge. It's how often two women speak to each other.
The Backendall test or something?
Where they're not speaking about a man, and all of these movies like super fail.
It wouldn't
that
be
hardcore.
a single scene, I don't think. That's not
the Bechdel test.
Yeah, like that's all I could think of. It's just.
See, there's a scene in this, and Conan, I thought of you, where I was like, there's stories here that could be interesting, like the Civil War vampires with Jasper.
With Jasper,
I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, this is cool. I'm like, that would be an interesting film. Like, I don't know.
All of it, like, there's so much interest. Even the very nature of the story, right, of like someone falling in love with a vampire is pretty timeless and really interesting. And you can do a lot with that, with the whole idea of dependence and agency and, you know, love being timeless. But they pick the worst direction for it every freaking time.
And even like you're saying, like her worry about becoming old, like that's kind of an interesting conflict, but they just kind of underwrite it with her just wanting to get it done straight away. You're right. Like that's such a teenage way to look at it, where, you know, you don't age that much between the age of 18 and 30. Like you're not going to be that much older than Edward.
Or even 19. She doesn't want to turn 19. She's like, I don't want to be another year older than you.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, oh God, calm down.
It's when you think about it as like written by this Mormon woman who I can only assume was very sheltered. It's like it's clearly a metaphor for wanting to have sex, right? And as soon as you're 18, you can get married and have sex. Yeah. It's like, I can't bear to be an adult for 1 year longer. I'm like, wow, she was working through some stuff, Stephanie Meyer.
Maybe you might be right.
Not in a good way, not in a healthy way.
No. I think this movie finally gets like the vampire movement right. Like they don't look so strange when they're running. You know, you kind of get this fight at the end, which is not good. Like the fight scenes aren't good, but it's much better than what we get in the first couple of movies.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. That's the thing. This is the one they rip Victoria's head off, don't they? Yeah, in this one when they're up on top of the mountain and stuff like that, which is brutal. I had the thought, I was like, this is a different person? I was like, that's Bryce Dallas Howard, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was like, that's super weird, but yeah.
Change the actress for some reason.
So why do the vampires explode? Why are they made of some sort of fiberglass or?
It's stone.
Is it stone?
Yes.
It doesn't sound like stone.
No,
it sounds like glass.
Doesn't work like stone either. Their heads pop off.
I don't know. They're supposed to, like, the vampires are supposed to be hard, cold, and like stone. The wolves are supposed to be warm, soft, and like a human, and warm. It's just I don't know. Is
it done better in the books, Griner?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
I do like the scene. That's the thing. The whole thing where Jacob's like, I am hotter than you. Like, because it was such a thing, like, back then, of Team Edward versus Team Jacob. It was, like, such a thing in high school and everything like that. It's obviously just playing that up where obviously people knew that it was always going to be Edward, but they had to try and tease this and to have this stuff for the trailer. I do like Edward's line where he's like, "Can you at least attempt to control your thoughts?" When like he's lying there with Bella in the tent, and Edward's just sitting there getting angry, like, "Oh, I can hear your thoughts. Stop it."
There's also that moment where he turns up without a shirt on. He's like, does he even own a shirt? Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm all right with that. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's sort of
finally
making
getting
fun at itself. Then,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's finally getting a sense of humor for itself, right?
but I don't know. Taylor Lautner still sucks throughout this whole movie. He's so whiny. His delivery on those lines is not good.
No.
Yeah.
He is he is genuinely a sex predator in these films. Like, you can tell in 5 years he's assaulting people at house parties and just like, putting roofies in drinks at bars. Like, his behavior is so unpleasant. He's just like, he's following her. He's constantly around. He's like, no, you need to date me. No, and even the things where he's like, control your thoughts. It's like, it's just creepy. This idea, this guy's just lying next to her, watching her, thinking about all the things he could do. I'm like, it's really unsettling.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, you're just trying to warm her. And he's just like, straight. That's all he's thinking about. He's just like, oh yeah,
yeah.
Like, and this is the whole thing as well. Like, her just making out with Jacob, like to get him to stay,
like in front of Edward.
It's straight cheating on Edward.
Yes.
Like, what the hell?
100%.
Oh man, it's weird. I feel like it's just. I don't know if that's in the books. I'm sure it's not something you remember.
I think it is probably, but
like, it's just such a weird thing. I feel like they've just put into. I don't know. I don't get it. It's not cool, like, at all, as far as I'm concerned. Like, with her whole thing with Edward, she says like it's always going to be Edward. I don't if it's just manipulation on her part to like lead him along a bit longer to get him to avoid the battle.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Someone pointed out that there's such an easy way to write these books where in the second film she develops feelings for Jacob, and then the third film is about her deciding, do I love Jacob who was there for me, or do I love Edward who abandoned me but I have much stronger feelings for? Like, that's a much more interesting conflict for her to have. It gives her logical. It's logical. It gives her more agency rather than it's these two dudes fawning over her and making decisions for her. And it's so easy to go down that path. It's so much better. And instead they write themselves into this weird loop where she doesn't want him but he wants her, but she's trying to make out with him and manipulate him. Like, it just is messy and weird. I don't understand like the thought when it's just poorly written.
Yeah, he forces that kiss on her and she like punches him in the face and breaks her fist as well. It's just like, and then like that second when she does make out with him, he's like, that should have been our first kiss, but I molested
you're a scumbag. Yes, you sexually assaulted me.
Yeah, but oh well, that old chestnut. Yeah, it's he gets crushed by one of the new bloods, but I don't know. I do like the whole New Blood thing, and this is probably my favorite of the films. Just from that whole thing, all the vampires coming out of the water is pretty cool. Like this, I don't know. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, it reminds you of that.
Walk out of the water again. But yeah, I feel like this one has sort of the most horror-ish vibe to it. I mean, I like that for these movies, but
I think this one has the most going on outside of the love triangle too.
Yes,
at least so far. I just want to point out there's a training montage too where like Jasper's teaching them how to fight, but there's no bear hugging or anything. It's just literally them sparring. It's like the worst training montage ever. It's so pointless. It's such a waste of time.
Yeah.
Well, they couldn't play baseball again, so
that's right. All right, part 1 of Breaking Dawn. The Corlettes close in on expecting parents Edward and Bella, whose unborn child possesses a threat to the wolf pack and the townspeople of Forks.
We haven't talked about this, how problematic these movies are for the Corlettes, and how their native, their history does link them as a people back to wolves, right? Like their legends are they're descended from wolves. But Stephanie Meyer added in all this mythology about the werewolves and all this other stuff like that. And like it's in the time since, especially, she's really been like hounded for how bad that is. Right? Like she like racial appropriation like exploitation of the tribe and their people, adding in all this stuff to be, just to sell books. To sell books and like, oh, this is these mysterious people with these fascinating tribes. And the more you kind of unpack it like that, it's like that's really bad.
Yeah,
people are very. I don't really.
I was going to say, people are very ready to cry appropriation about a lot of things, but this is like an example of it. Like this is when it's a problem, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't like to go down that path of appropriation because I think it's overused. But this is exactly that of like, wow, she's blatantly doing it and just being like, these are others that we don't know, and they have this cool history, and they can turn into animals. I'm like, that's really weird. That's really weird. That's not good. And yeah, they double down in these ones, and I just. Man, again, would not fly in 2022.
No, lots of things in these movies wouldn't. How awkward is it them like dancing around sex? I don't think they even use the word sex once, but like the whole thing about her wanting to lose her virginity while she's a human, and then them going on their honeymoon, and the whole time they're just dancing around it. Like they can't show too much because it's PG-13. They can't talk about it too much, but obviously, there's things to consider there. And they do, like, they go into it a little bit. He breaks the bed and all that sort of stuff. But it just feels so awkward the way they have to dance around it the whole time.
It cracks me up. Like, I wrote it down. Like, they're literally arguing over the potential of him banging her to death like, on their honeymoon. Which obviously everyone does. But, like, it's just, it's super weird. And they dance around it. It's kind of funny in a way, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. It's really weird.
Yeah. Especially because it's like a 15-minute scene of her like dressing up in different outfits.
Oh, it feels like 30-minute scene.
Yeah, like her begging him for sex is so
like
awkward.
Scenes where she's literally trying to just be a cock tease and he's like, ha ha ha. Oh,
and then puts the blanket over it. He's just like, no, not again, because you got a couple of bruises. And she's very much like, oh, that was a great night. Like, she's like, yeah, I got a couple of bruises. And he's just like, no, like it's like he's going to go whip himself and stuff.
That's
like,
right. His blow up where he's like, I will never touch you again. It's like, oh my goodness.
He's like, I'm an animal and I'm not good for you.
It all feels like they've just got too much time on their hands because they've broken this movie into two parts. This whole movie is just like basically the wedding, the honeymoon, and the birth of Renesmee, and that's all that happens in this movie, and it's 2 hours long.
It's completely redundant, yeah. This doesn't need to be a movie.
So, like, I'll just go through my notes. So, like, you touched on it earlier, Grona. Like, the whole retcon of, like, they're like, oh, yeah, Laurent was involved with our family because was married to our cousin, Maggie Grace. And, like, she's like, he was wanting to be like us. Like, when? He tried to kill Bella in the second one. Like... He was killing humans in the first movie. When did this happen? Like,
that was a bad time, right? He's just going through a dark time.
Oh, just going through a dark time. Yeah. The whole thing with Edward, how he used to kill predators only. Like, obviously, they don't want him to seem like a bad guy, so he only kills...
They turn him into Dexter. Yeah, it's so strange.
I did forget that he can read people's thoughts, because, like, I had this whole thought of, like, that guy in the cinema is like taking the woman's car keys to her, like, ma'am, you dropped your car. And he's just like, bites into his neck in the theater. Like,
see, that'd be another great story to tell.
If he couldn't read people's thoughts, but it's another superpower he has. And
he's like trying to justify it to himself. Is this the one where one of the other vampires that Bella meets is like, that's what she did as well? She's like, I spent the past 100 years killing men who would prey on me or something.
That's yeah.
It's
I can't think of her name. The pretty one.
It's the sister that doesn't get along with her, whatever her name is.
That doesn't happen until the next movie, though. I think.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, I think they're trying to add that in. They're trying to really be like, we're not all problematic. See, we hate sex offenders.
We did bad things to bad people once.
Oh man. Like the whole thing, they have their own island. Like
if you live for over 100 years and you don't have your own island, you have mismanaged your money like terribly.
But do not most people live to 100 and not own islands? I don't know.
100 in the prime of your life.
How do they make money though? He's a doctor, I guess. But like, how can they afford all this stuff?
Do you
Like,
know,
what? Just
do you know how much time
investments?
you would have if you didn't sleep?
No, I get it, but like, what do? Do you just work
They're
like
bulletproof.
manual?
They go rob
Do you-
banks. They're criminals
Yeah,
at
there's
night.
so
that's what I
many
was thinking,
things
like-
you could do.
Because that's the way I see it, right? You just commit crimes because morality doesn't exist if you're immortal. There's no reason to be good if you're like, this is just a world where I'll live forever and I'll see 1,000 lives. So committing crimes is fine, but if they don't, these are all good vampires. They don't commit crimes.
They only
So what
rob
do they
from
do
drug dealers.
Do they just put their money in a good 401k and like 600 years later?
Compound
they've got
interest.
great-
Compound
Yeah,
interest is a bitch.
They've got great interest rates. Like,
That's the I'd love the whole thing of like, you know, because they are morally good and they don't do anything. They're just like, okay, look, we're gonna need money. Let's set ourselves this next 50 years we'll be criminals because we'll get away with it. And then from then on we'll move to a new town. We'll be really good.
We'll atone for our sins from there. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's
Yeah.
get rich first. Let's go rob a bunch of banks and kill people and all that. But yeah, like they have their own island.
We get a montage of Bella shaving her legs. Her personal hygiene montage is so awkward.
But like,
Yeah, it goes through
she goes
everything.
to the bathroom to do that, like right before they're about to get like freaky. It's like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you have done this? This is like the day after your wedding. Wouldn't you have done that on your wedding
That's
day?
what my wife was like. She'd have all this done already. This is
Yeah,
stupid.
the same as my wife. She was like, "This is unrealistic." The whole pregnancy thing's weird. It's really
Yeah.
creepy. It's
Yeah.
really creepy and disturbing. Like the blood thick shake. She looks freaky. Like
She looks very
like,
sick. Yeah, they did that well.
yeah.
I think she had to have lost weight too because like she stands up and her legs are like twigs.
yeah, she's
Like,
so skinny in this.
Well, the
Yeah.
effect was done well. Like as if it is CGI or whatever, it's on the scene of her breaking her back when she bends
Yeah.
over.
Yeah,
It's brutal. It's brutal, man. The whole but like Conan, what's your thoughts on the killer baby growing inside of her and feeding on her blood and draining her life?
Again, like that's an interesting idea. Like, the whole
Yeah,
idea. It's
the
like, you know,
vampire
zombie babies and stuff. Like, what
Hmm.
happens when these two incompatible things? So I like the idea of it, like a half vampire, half human hybrid. I would have liked to see some more alien type, you know, like hands reaching through the skin and
Yeah.
like,
Chest,
you know, like-
chest burster.
yeah, and they hinted it's like the baby's breaking your ribs from the inside. I'm like, yeah, let's get some serious body horror going. She starts just like vomiting up blood and hair and like,
Like the birth scene is really like it's the weirdest birth scene ever. Like it is almost horror. Like Edward's like biting into her down there, like, and it's like there's bones crunching and stuff like that.
yeah,
It's like,
why is that
it's-
happening?
I don't know, but it's really disturbing. Like for him to get the baby out, and I don't know, is he breaking through her rib cage? But then she's fine. I don't know, just all heals, I guess.
Well, I mean,
When she
you
turns into a
see when
vampire.
she gets the venom in her, that her chest
the
pops back
venom.
out again and everything. Like it
Oh, that's
sorts
right.
all
And the
that
bones
out.
like crunch back
Yeah.
into place.
So I guess he like cut her in half basically. She's just like an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And then
so.
it just all glues back together. It's pretty cool.
It's
Oh, man.
yeah. I mean, that stuff's kind of cool, but then we get interstitched with that like dog politics where they have a little council meeting in their dog form and howl at each other for 5 minutes while we read subtitles. Like it's so stupid.
Yeah, the conversation. Yeah, strange.
So okay, obviously you can't talk about this movie. The CGI baby
Yes.
is so bad.
When you say like it's an effect her being so skinny, I don't think so because the effects we get are way worse than that. That baby face
know.
is
God-awful.
horrifying. That's the
Did you
horror.
Like, why not just have a baby? Because they did they
question.
built a physical robot doll at
Yeah,
first.
have you seen the pictures? It's
It's horrifying.
It's
horrifying. This massive headed baby robot doll.
It just
And they're
looks-
like, no, that looks bad. Let's do the CGI thing. And it looks so bad as well. Why not just have a baby? I don't get it. I really don't.
You're right. It should be just a baby. But in the books, the baby
Oh, here
is
we go.
the baby is very advanced, very expressive, very aware of what's going around them. It's not a newborn, right? Like it grows
And
to be
that's-
a teenager in 2 years or something like that. Like it's
And you can tell from that newborn that when she first sees him, It's meant to be like, oh, this is a newborn with the face of like a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
And it can open its eyes properly, and it's unsettling. It's. I
But it's
get
bad.
I get what they're doing, but man, it looks like shit.
So, okay. Do you think the whole reason they did this whole thing where how she literally in 2 years will age to 18 and then stop at 18? Do you think this whole thing is just because like they're like, oh, then it makes sense for Jacob to be with her? Like in 2 years' time, it'll just be they're both teenagers together.
Definitely helps it out, doesn't it? Like it makes it almost bearable. It's bad.
Is that the idea? Is it trying to just justify pedophilia? Like, is Stephanie Meyer that dark?
Maybe.
She could be a criminal.
I don't know. It's pretty weird. Renesmee as well. That's an interesting name.
It's an awful name. I hate
Nicknamed
it.
after the Loch Ness monster.
No, that's part 2. That line.
Oh, true.
It's so convenient that the wolves' most absolute law is that you can't hunt an imprintee. It's their most absolute law.
The most absolute. I wrote that
so
line down as well. Like, and they all just like, okay, damn it. Let's all run
Can't
away.
do anything about this now.
We won't even argue because it's their
After all-
most absolute law.
Like you say, after all the politics we've just seen, an hour and a half's worth. Yeah, it's fine. There's imprinting. It's all good.
Man.
Let bygones be bygones.
All right. Final film, Breaking Dawn Part 2. After the birth of Renesmee, the Cullens gather other vampire clans in order to protect the child from a false allegation that puts the family in front of the Volturi.
Speaking of movies that have a misunderstanding at the core of their drama.
Oh, the whole plot.
I kind of like the what do they call them? The Forever Child. Like that's kind of interesting that these people were creating vampires that were children and they can't control themselves, and that's a problem, obviously.
That's another interesting alternate history take you could do on this.
It is.
Where's our spin-offs of Twilight that go super dark horror?
Twilight 1635.
Oh, yes, man. It'll save Netflix. It'll save Netflix.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll just say the opening's like her running up the cliff to get the climber, and she's just like just climbing it ferociously. I'm gonna go eat this human that's up on this cliff. Like it's so intense. It's great.
Yeah, her finally becoming a vampire is kind of, I don't know,
20-minute thing of her.
Yeah, it's long.
Yeah.
And then it's real dumb that's like, oh, her power is she's got super self-control. She doesn't want to kill everyone straight away.
Isn't her power just everything, though? Because she's got that. She's got the shield. She's got shield, yeah. I feel like she's got something else.
No, that's her powers. It's very convenient to give her the power to be like, oh, no, I don't need to hunt. I can meet Charlie almost straight away after I turn into a vampire. Like, it's very, very, very convenient.
Yeah. Yep. She's such an interesting character, though. Why wouldn't she have these interesting personality traits?
She was made to be a vampire. She was destined. It was her destiny. Like she's.
So, like, imagine this story where Bella is just that weird kid who sits at the table being like, "I'm a vampire, guys. I'm gonna be this person," and everyone's like, "Fuck, she's a weirdo." And then finally, it turns out that a vampire does actually find her and falls in love, and she's like, "I knew it. This is why I've been cutting myself all these years."
See, this is the thing. Like all these interesting like character quirks and like dealing with like modern things. What We Do in the Shadows is the best representation. Have any of you guys seen What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes.
No.
Because they have that. They have the dudes like it's Taika Waititi, Conan. Hilarious movie. You really should watch it. It's hilarious. It's basically done like in a documentary style. These mockumentary of like these 4 roommates living in a house in New Zealand, but they're vampires. It deals with that whole thing of like what you just said, like they have fans that are like really want to be vampires. So there's these humans in the house like serving on them because like, oh, they're gonna make me a vampire soon, and they're just like, no, we'll kill them.
It's a good movie. You should watch it. The best line is like, why do you only drink the blood of virgins? And it's like, well, if I was gonna eat a sandwich, I wouldn't want someone to have sex with it first. It's good. It's real good. You should watch that movie.
It's a hilarious movie, and they have 3 seasons of the TV show of it as well, and it's really good.
Yeah,
probably only exists because of these movies. I'll point out.
Yes,
potentially only exists because of these movies. So look, we got to thank them for something.
Yep.
I don't know, traveling the world, finding vampire witnesses. We get Rami Malek. I don't know. It's kind of fun running around finding people's different powers. We get Lee Pace.
I feel like it's just an excuse to get like an hour and a half of like this. Here's this vampire, and here's their power. Here's this vampire, and here's their power. And like we don't,
right.
Like they don't use those powers in the final fight. I don't feel like, final fight.
Yeah,
like that. I just want to touch on the whole thing about the Forever Children you touched on. Dakota Fanning throwing the vampire baby in the fire.
Yeah,
like so unintentionally. She's just like smiling and just like tosses it.
Yeah.
Possibly the best scene in the whole franchise.
Like there's vampires that control water and electricity, and like I'm like, what, man? It gets like insane in this one. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, controlling the elements is like a big deal.
That's a lot of that's a big power.
Yeah.
Like what's Lee Pace's power? I don't think he even has one. You never see any.
Being a rock star or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, English rock star recounting old war stories.
Yeah. I mean, the chick with the taser powers, she can tase you. I'm like, how is that anything remotely close to like reading minds or something? What?
Just get a taser in your hand.
It'd really be like
if she was like shooting like Darth Sidious like lightning out. That's cool.
So imagine how you'd feel if you were that vampire and it's like my power is I don't even know that I can smell things stronger than you, whereas this guy's over here controlling fire with his bare hands. Like, how would you feel? You've really lost the lottery on life of vampires, man.
I don't know. Emmett's power is he has super strength. And,
they all do, though.
Well, exactly. And Rosalie's power is super beauty. I'm not even kidding. Like, go look it up. There's a Wikipedia about all
They never
powers.
say that in the movie.
No, because they don't care. They don't have time for that.
No, or thingos, because like, what's his name? The other brother, I forgot
Emmett,
his name.
or Jasper.
Emmett, like, because they all have powers. Like, they all have super strength. Like, it's not like he's extra stronger. Bella's beats him in an arm wrestle.
Yeah, that's because she's a newborn.
Oh, that's
supposedly
he
is the strongest. Esme's power is to love. She's very caring. Anyway, it's real stupid. What else?
Alice is cool. Alice is cool.
Alice is a huge problem though. Like they're constantly writing ways for her not to be able to see the future, because if you have a clairvoyant in your story, they ruin everything, right? It's too strong
in this movie until the final scene. Just
they take her out of this whole movie because it's just too much.
And is the whole thing okay? So she's out of the whole movie to go find like an example of someone who's like Renesmee.
Yeah.
But was there another reason that she couldn't come out to the final battle? Because like, how come it took her all that time? And in this time, they've traveled around the world and recruited a whole army of vampires, and she's just gone to, I don't know. It's also, this is the thing. Robert Pattinson brings this up in an interview where he's mocking the movie, that they Google like vampire babies. Oh, that's in the previous one. Sorry, the vampire baby. They Google it to figure out like what to do about vampire babies, because we have no idea. Carlisle, the vampire doctor, who's been around for 400 years, doesn't know, but Google will be able to find the answers in there. Robert Pattinson rips it apart in an interview. He's like, they go to Google. He's like, oh, let's figure out vampire lineage. Let's figure out how to solve this problem. All these books in this house won't help us, but let's go to Google. But yeah, it's just funny.
Absurd.
Conan, what do you think of the final battle?
Yeah.
I'm still in shock a little bit from it, I think, coming away, because it picked up and I thought, holy crap, they're doubling down. They're showing some balls, you know.
People are dying.
We see Carlisle literally get his head ripped off. I was like, cool. Love comes at a cost, guys. You don't just get to dabble in vampire world and human world and come away without blood on your fangs.
Yeah.
And it's happening. Everyone, shit's going down.
Yeah.
And that moment, that reveal, I was watching it with my wife, and I was literally like, "What?" I yelled, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that happened."
I always forget that happens, and every time I rewatch it, I'm like, "Holy crap, they're all dying!" I'm like, "What?"
Because no one else would be so brazen to do this. No one else would say
for 40 minutes. That whole
Yeah,
vision is like
it's
the whole
huge.
climax of the movie.
Yeah.
No one else would make such a contemptible choice and say, we will have the whole, and then I woke up twist ending. Like, this is rule number one. I remember being taught this in year 3 in primary school. Do not end a story that way. That's the golden rule of storytelling. You cannot do that.
Everybody's first story is like, and it was all a dream, and everybody's like, don't do that. Like, yeah.
Exactly. Children know that. And it's like, how the flying shit did they get away with that in this movie?
And all the trailers was of the fight as well. Like, all the trailers for this film were like the biggest battle in history. And like, I remember watching it first, and I was like, wow. I was like, this is awesome. They are just going full balls to the wall.
Rami Malek opened the earth to the core. Like, this is wild.
Lava. People are falling in the lava. Jasper's head gets ripped off. I was like, what is going on? The wolf gets his neck snapped.
Yeah, werewolves are getting broken in half.
Alice uses a wolf to decapitate Dakota Fanning. Like, I'm like, what is going on? This is insane.
I mean, I would have been. I'm not that angry at it because I don't expect this from anything else from these films. The fight scenes seem too different, and I was like, cool, they've made this choice. I'm like, no, it's consistent with the whole franchise to not have anyone lose their life. It's consistent to have everything work out in a neat little package.
And it does, very much so.
So I'm pretty sure in the book there's like, he just reads Alice's mind. Like, they don't say there's a big fight and just realizes he's got no hope. Like, they don't describe a whole battle or anything like that. It's basically, would you have preferred that?
No, because then this movie's 40 minutes long.
And nothing happens? Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. Overall, there did not need to be 5 movies for this. No. That's my main takeaway from these films. Is holy crap, New Moon, I feel, is like completely unnecessary. And Breaking Dawn Part 2 is completely unnecessary. You could have just had Breaking Dawn. And
if you cut all that out and just make it one movie, that's a better choice.
Yeah.
Should have been a trilogy.
And it fits because this movie, none of these are action films. And so to have the big battle scene, it's, even though it's entertaining, it doesn't really fit with it, right? Like, it's never been a battle movie. There's no action. So it probably would have made more sense to not have the battle and just have that one scene. But
it is entertaining to watch. In a way.
It is. And it is. Again, I was like, Carlisle died. I'm like, Carlisle's kind of, he's like the nice dad you always kind of want.
You want him to live, yeah. Anything else to say about this movie? I kind of wish we'd had a scene at the end where it was like either a recreation of the start of Twilight where the Cullens walk in, but Bella's with them at their new school in Alaska, or Bella playing baseball with them would be the other way to go. And we don't get any of that. I don't know. How do you guys feel about the ending?
Just a couple notes. Like the whole ending thing with the final sequence. What's his name? Arrow. He's, like you said earlier, his laugh at the heartbeat is hilarious. Cracks me up. The fact that, like, it's not the whole thing with Maggie Grace, the traitor, isn't an illusion. They literally rip her arms and head off in front of everyone. Like, suck on that, bitch. The funniest thing that cracks me up is, like, Bella's like, I got something to show you. And she's like, one of my powers is basically to show you a tribute video of us.
Her power is to turn off her power.
What do you mean?
She's turning off she's turning off her shield so he can read her mind for the first time.
Oh, okay. I thought she just showed him a YouTube video. The tribute video. Because it's just so she's like, let me show you something. And then, like, it plays the music and, like, has this whole thing of their whole life up to that point, and it's like, oh, it's a
she's letting her guard down. It's still stupid.
Yeah.
Because the ending is, there's like 3 endings to this where it's like everything resolves and then everything resolves, and
the way they all walk away really fast, the Volturi, they just like
they're just like
this way like the Flash.
They like slowly pace their ways together in the middle of this frozen lake, and then they're it's real dumb.
Bizarro.
That is the ending. Like they're pretty much Bella lets her guard down, lets Edward in.
See, I didn't get that read on it at all. That's I guess that's
neither.
Nice.
I missed that.
I totally think what you said earlier would have been a better ending with having her do the exact same entrance that they did at that one with like the music and like a group of kids like, oh my god, it's the Cullens.
Yeah, I mean that would have shown some understanding of what people liked about but they're just, I don't know, it's dumb. They should have done it.
And yeah, there's the 10 minutes credit sequence with Christina Perry, and just like everyone just turning the camera and like smiling, like it's like such a weird tribute. Like,
Yeah.
It's like they treat it as if it's Endgame, but not even Endgame got such a dramatic credit sequence of showing everyone from the whole MCU. It's just like such a big climax for this film.
Yeah, it's even more awkward by having like the two different Victoria actresses.
Yeah,
nearly after each other. Like, it's so. I don't know who was like signing off on these decisions or making these decisions, but they're bad.
But man, I guarantee, there would have been like fangirls just like standing up applauding for every credits person name, like, oh my god, Laurent!
Oh, it's Carlisle. He's so hot.
Oh man, yeah. And I will admit, it is pretty cool how it ends on the final three, like showing their names in the book and then showing to them. It feels epic. If it was epic movies, it would have been better. But yeah,
none of those characters deserve that tribute at the end. Most of those characters, like Bunk, is in there. He's like one of the cards, and he's in the movie for like 3 minutes,
just to give the passports. That's all he does.
That totally could have been in the mail. Like that
totally could have been passports shown up.
That's a locked deposit box or something that she goes and finds. But no, she's got to meet a whole new character, introduce
out at
him.
dinner, like. But it is cool to see Bunk. As soon as that happened, I texted Grown. I was like, I can't wait for Conan to see Bunk in one of these films.
And I was like, Bunk is in this movie? What the hell? I can't even.
I didn't know either. Like until I was watching it, and I was like, oh my god, yep.
Crazy.
Conan, how do you feel overall watching all these films? Enlightened now?
I feel like I've just witnessed September 11 all over again.
Oh wow. I don't think you can say that. All right, well, let's
cancel me.
Let's do what we came here to do. Let's rate them. Let's rank them. Conan, do you want to go first?
Really, they just kind of blur it.
Which bite of this shit sandwich will you take first?
All right, if I had to, it would go 4 at the bottom. So part 1 of Breaking Dawn.
Sure.
Then number 2. And then number I don't know, 3 and 5 are interchangeable. Number 1 would have to be the best.
Really?
The best. Yeah, I think so. Because if I think about it, if I was ever going to, if I was in hell and I had to rewatch one of these films, it would only be number 1. Because it'd be like, I would never ever be like, yeah, I'm going to watch enough of them to get to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But number 1, I'd be like, potentially, something.
You want the
I can understand that.
Exactly. No, 1 stands up on its own, being just like there's a mystery. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Oh, this film sucks. Whereas the other ones are, I'm already invested in the shit.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing. I always kind of had this whole thing of like, 1 is the one that I could rewatch, and the one I remember most stuff about, and then the rest. Worst I think is New Moon. It's just Bella being sad for 2 hours, and Edward being sad as well. So that's bottom. Then you have, I would say, part 1, Breaking Dawn. Then I would have probably Breaking Dawn Part 2. Then Twilight. Then Eclipse.
Yeah, we have the same list, Luke.
Yep.
You boys love the Eclipse.
I like the New Blood Army. It's interesting.
I also think Eclipse is the only of these movies where like the love triangle means anything, works in any fashion at all. Not a good movie.
But at least in the first one, you don't have the love triangle.
That's true too.
Yes.
I do like the first one. You're right. It kind of stands up on its own a little bit. I don't know. I do like the first one. I could probably interchange Eclipse and Twilight, but
yeah, I think I've seen the first one the most. So watching Eclipse again, I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. I like this war thing going on. So yeah, but they're interchangeable. So who really cares?
Yeah. I forgot to mention, Eclipse has a lot of unintended homoeroticism with all the Quillette guys just hanging out without shirts, laughing, wrestling, hugging.
They're brothers, man.
they're not brothers. They're all just they're members of the tribe.
No, this movie's all about found families, coming together.
It's like Fast and Furious, but they're banging.
It's all about family.
There's a commonality between all these big franchises, man. It's found family.
Yeah.
Family is the easiest theme in the world, right? Like,
So true.
everybody has some relation to a family.
Hey, and Bella had a family, okay? His name was Charlie, and he got hard done by.
Man, she's so brutal to him in the first one as well.
She is, yes.
Like, she literally quotes her mum, like, I'll just be stuck here forever, like, Mum. Like, you don't have to do that. Poor Charlie, man. Oh, he just gets treated like crap.
Like I said, he's the only character of any value in these. He's the only one I relate to in any way, shape, or form, anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's just like, yep, my granddaughter's now 18 after 2 years. Cool.
He's like,
I won't ask. Whatever.
he's just like, what a world I live in.
What a world we live in. Jacob's a wolf.
I'm glad they don't give that enough time to have to try and explain it, because like the whole the adoption, it's like, oh, this is so strange.
Yeah.
This whole thing is so strange. Anyway.
I guess
the whole thing where she's in a hospital for months and he's like, what the hell? You're still there. Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, don't come.
That's the thing. Even though he's like he's a good father, he's also the worst father ever. There's so much stuff that he's just like, oh, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, my daughter fell down the stairs. Oh, clumsy.
Teenage girls. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I guess. Your husband's just taking you away for 6 months. Oh, I don't know what it's like to be married anymore. I'm divorced.
Must be a hell of a honeymoon. Maybe that's why I'm divorced. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
And then he's pretty shit.
Billy Burke.
Oh, we didn't talk about the wedding speeches. His is real bad. They're like, oh, I've got a gun. I know where to find you. But they're all really, really bad.
But that's fitting, because that's like what an awkward dad joke speech would be.
You're right.
Yeah.
Emmett's speech of, I hope you've had enough sleep because you're not going to be getting any more anytime soon.
It's a double entendre. It's great.
It's woeful.
Because she'll never sleep again, and it makes sense for humans.
Now, the best one's Anna Kendrick's.
She's the best one.
Really awkward. Like, not that she was captain of the football
team. Volleyball team.
Or the volleyball team. Like me. Oh, this is weird.
She's way funnier and has way more personality than Bella does.
Yes, absolutely.
And she's cute as a button. Why would anyone date Bella?
That's right.
I think that's the message that I take away from these films. Why did anyone buy into this love story? There's nothing there.
Yeah, why were two men willing to give their lives for her? Yeah, I don't understand it, but anyway. She's such a non-character. All right, that's Twilight done. Do we have anything else we want to say about it? All you people out there who made us watch this, it's done. We've done it. I hope you're happy. Conan's gonna.
I'm not.
Conan's depressed. Conan's very upset by it.
You did. I'm gonna go and watch the seasons pass by my window for 6 months. Thanks, guys.
I did find it funny. I liked now watching it after Batman. Everything, I just see Robert Pattinson as Batman. So like that meme that's going around when she asks who Edward is, and Anna Kendrick just being like, "That's vengeance." It just cracks me up. I said it out loud when I was watching it. I was like, "Look at him over there. He's going to go beat up some criminals at night." Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this special Twilight Saga podcast. This has been the good, the bad, and the worst. Next fortnight, we are watching Doctor Strange.
The Multiverse of Madness.
So check it out on release date and listen to us and rate and review it and compare it to the other Marvel movies. It should be fun. It's not a trilogy, but we don't care
Sam
anymore.
Raimi back after 9-year hiatus. Going to atone for Spider-Man 3's sins.
Yes, we'll see. I hope someone does the Spider-Man 3 dance in this movie. He's got room to get weird with it. I hope he does.
It's got to happen.
Yep, definitely.
Place our bets now.
All right, well, you can find us on socials at Good Bad Worst. We also have a gaming podcast, Bonus XP. Check it out on all your podcasts and social apps. We just did an episode about our favourite video game characters of all time. Yes. It was a lot of fun. Rip Nintendo. Didn't get a mention. If you love Nintendo, tell us about it. This podcast was brought to you by The Taste of Iron by our very own C.V. Clarke. Pick it up. It's a great read. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.